this meeting to order of the Montgomery City Council. It's May 31st, 2022. It's exactly 6 p.m. Truly glad that all of you have taken interest in our city. Let us prayerfully proceed forth. I've heard a lot of sentiments, and I'm with you. And I do want to get this resolved. With that said, would like to, Brother T. Well, first, did I say that? Silence your phones, please, so we don't have interruptions. Mr. T.J. Wilkerson, would you lead us in the invocation?
Lord, we come tonight with humble hearts. We come with bowed heads. We come, Lord, realizing that Thou art the Creator, that Thou art our Father, our Maker. We come, Lord, thanking You for all that You've done. We thank You, Lord, for touching us with Your finger of love this morning and woke us up. Lord, we come tonight praying for the families of Uvalde, Texas. We also pray for the families that's in Brooklyn, New York. Lord, we thank You. We ask that You give us some understanding. We ask that You give us a listening ear. That You ask, Lord, that You give us peace of mind. And Lord, we thank You for all that You can do and that You continue to do. Watch over the city of Montgomery. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Now for the salute to the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
We had 22 people request to speak. I will take the top 4 with the idea that if someone has something else different than what we're talking about, because all 22 are about the same deal, we typically give 3 minutes per, and that's what we need to do. Again, we'll take this with the first 4. Annette Smith, you'll approach the podium and give your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes until the timer goes off. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Annette Smith. I'm at 8851 Taylor's Court in Montgomery. So thank you for serving, thank you for having us, and thank you for everyone being here. Again, I'm Annette Smith, and I have a resident for about 7 years here in Montgomery, and I am the person that also brought Panda Express to Montgomery, and I'm very excited about that. I'm a businesswoman and have been in conversations with them since 2016 to bring Panda here, which did take some time. I'm also an advocate in many of our communities and volunteer. I'm the current president for National Charity League. And I know we're all here to talk about the food truck, and I just wanted to go ahead and just mention that I think the most important thing, we all want to have appropriate businesses in our community, things that will attract us to downtown Montgomery, but we need to know that this evening that we need to stay within the current rules and regulations that are currently in place instead of voting to have a temporary moratorium. There are already rules and regulations in place, and we don't need to spend this time to vote to then move the line down the road to discuss anything new, to pass or not pass permits that have already been paid for and are waiting to be received. So there are rules and regulations on the books right now, that there are ordinances that are in place, and legally we cannot move the line to rediscuss local businesses and the use, and in particular with Dandy Dogs. And so I just wanted to share that. I could go on and talk for the rest of my 2.5 minutes on how important it is to have good businesses, and I'm just very impressed with Jacob and his food truck and the fact that we have a very wonderful local entrepreneur that gives us more reasons to come to the community instead of going to other places. And so that is what I wanted to say. There is no reason to vote to have a new temporary moratorium when there already are rules and regulations that are in place. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Appreciate it. Rick Ornelas. Rick Ornelas. State your name and address, please.
My name is Rick Ornelas. My address is 240 Lake Estates Drive in Montgomery. So my wife and I and my family, we've been residents of Montgomery here since 2009, moving here from Southern California. In the time that we've been here, we have seen substantial growth in the Montgomery area. We've seen some great growth. We've seen lots of businesses come. Many have not made it. Many have gone by the wayside, but the good ones have stayed. And we've seen the number of traffic lights between here and 105 and Highway 45 increased by 14 traffic lights from Walden Road to 105 or to 45. And we've seen a lot of changes. And with growth, you see changes in infrastructure, you see changes in roads as is going on right now, and you see lots of changes. But what has not changed are the dreams and the aspirations of our young people. In fact, they've grown even stronger. And research shows that Generation Z, the generation that Jacob Irving is a part of at the young age of 16, research shows that they're the most entrepreneurial generation ever. Far more than baby boomers, far more than Generation X like myself or millennials or any generation. Research also shows that 2/3 of them believe that they can have an impact and change the world, which is, again, far higher than any other generation, than our generation. You know, I'm kind of including us in a few buckets here. But my point is, for everyone here tonight, and especially for you council members, is that Jacob at the age of 14, at the young age of 14, had a dream to open a food truck and to pursue that dream. Now, I don't know what you all were doing at the age of 14, but I certainly wasn't thinking of opening a small business myself, okay? And, you know, Mrs. Smith already shared, you know, about changing the rules and moving the line down the road, which is, you know, a whole separate issue, which I don't think is appropriate and I won't get into. But aside from that, just look at the fact that you have a young individual who I've known since he was yay high when we first moved here, and has grown, seen all the growth, and wants to contribute to that growth of Montgomery County, and wants to bring a good and thriving business to Montgomery County, and wants to serve the people of Montgomery County in the best way that he can. I've seen him be of service in many ways from the time, you know, we've gone and sang at the senior facilities for Christmas and through his high school years and the charitable endeavors he's done, and he has a heart of service. And so I just ask you that you let him continue to serve the community of Montgomery and to serve the good people of Montgomery County, and to let his term go through. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Christy O'Connell.
I'm Christy O'Connell, 4001 Moody Drive, Montgomery, Texas. I've actually been one of Jacob's bosses for over the last year. And one of the very first things you found out about him the moment he walked in the door was that this was his dream. And he's gone on and on about it. So I'm very proud of him. He's an incredible young man. We run a wedding venue, so he has been in the service industry like you would not believe. He has seen the best and the worst of an event. He knows how to handle people with grace and dignity and respect. And I have to say that my daughter is also a friend of his. I have 7 children. So my 2 littlest are with me today. They are funnel cake and hot dog lovers like you would not believe. And they're super excited. And just thank you for the opportunity to be up here and to support Jacob and his family, who honestly has picked him up from the wedding venue at midnight when he wasn't able to drive yet. So they stand behind him, they're supportive, I support him. He's welcome back with us anytime. He left on great standing. The owners of the venue would say the exact same thing if they could be here tonight. My daughter, who did his pictures for his website, would be here if she wasn't away at church camp working to support him. And that's why we're here, because we all love him, and we know he's gonna be a great business person, and it's gonna be a great opportunity for me to take my kids to go to his food truck. Thank you.
Thank you. Brad Otteson.
Hello, my name is Brad Otteson. I live at 31210 Sugar Bend Drive in Magnolia. I met Jacob a couple of years ago. I was introduced to him by my granddaughter, who lives in April Sound. And we watched Jacob grow, and we watched him come along and decide what he wanted to do and pushed forward with the view and the vision of having that food truck. We've kept up with it as it was being built, and saw the pictures, and saw the energy that this young man was putting into that. And it just amazes me. Like the gentleman that spoke a few minutes ago, at 14, 15, 16 years old, I wasn't thinking about anything like that, even though I married my wife when I was 19, 18. We moved here a couple of years ago, well, 4 years ago. We got flooded in Pearland due to Harvey, and we decided to look for some higher ground, and we came out here. We love this area. It's a wonderful place with wonderful people. I see your city seal in the back there. It says City of Montgomery, 1837. My roots go back to my fourth great-grandfather in 1831, who came here in Stephen F. Austin's colony in the Caldwell area. But this is Texas. You on the city limits and in different places around town, it says this city is the birthplace of the Texas flag. And I want us to remember that this is where we live. We live in a place that are full of entrepreneurs and people who struck out to come to this place to be more than what they were previously and to have more than what they had previously. And that's what we see in this young man, and I stand in support of him today. And I would say that if you don't support him today, you just might not be a Texan. Thank you.
Julie?
My name's Julie Davis. I live at 201 Womack Cemetery. My different perspective, since you're not going to hear from all of your constituents tonight, is that in our city ordinances, in Article 2, subsection 6434, it's the granting or denial and issuance of the permits. It says that you have 10 days of the receipt of the application. Today's the 10th day, so the business hours are closed, and this is already outside of that. So technically, you're already in breach of your own ordinances. Second to that, inside of that, it says that the only requirement for him is approval for subsection 6431 and subsection 6433. 31 talks about the permit being filled out correctly, which I presume it is. And 33 talks about the requirements of the mobile food truck and roadside food vendors, which he meets all of them. So what Annette was referring to is that if we continue to move the line and say that we need a moratorium until we eventually, at some point, decide on what a food truck ordinance should be, and or eventually decide on what is or is not a historic district, and whether or not we have or do not have, which we don't have, specific ordinances that dictate the historic district, then what we're doing is creating a lawsuit for the city. Because he would have every legal right to stand and to sue the city for not granting his permit, because it's based upon what's in existence when he applies. It's not a moratorium so that you can then stretch the line and keep moving it. So if you want 6 more months to go through the ordinances and the plotting and the zoning and create a historic district, which everybody seems to believe exists, but our planning and zoning doesn't have any specific planning or zoning for a historic district. So you can't say that this is something you want to roll out for one. You're going to roll it out for everyone. You're going to affect Montgomery Grove. You're going to affect any festival that happens. You've already shut down Wine Fest. We have massive issues that A&A plants with festivals. First, Montgomery's fixing to have their Summer Fest. What are we going to do? Walk in with code enforcement and shut them down too? To what end do we, as the birthplace of the Texas flag, continue to shut down small businesses in our city? So where will you draw the line, and how many moratoriums do we create or lawsuits do we create for the city that we as taxpayers have to pay?
Ms. Juanita Simmons.
Juanita Simmons, 21910 Twin Creeks Road, Montgomery, Texas. First off, I want to tell you that in the last 60 days, I have visited a lot of the businesses in downtown Montgomery. The historic district and others. And I encourage all of you on the city council to get out there and talk to the businesses and these small business owners, and you will learn a lot. I learned that they don't think that the city cares about them. They do not think that the city will support them in almost anything. I have a list here of different citizens and business owners and their comments and their concerns and the wrongs that have been done to them by the city. Names, addresses, all of it's here. I also have a list of every voter, citizen in this city. I'm impressed there's that many of you in here today. I've been to many city council meetings where there have been very few people here, and that you guys care means a lot. I just wish you were here more often. These citizens care, and I have their names, phone numbers, and list, and I guarantee you that they would care too. I know someone on this city council in the past had said they didn't care if they fill this room up to the ceiling with comments from the citizens. They were going to do what they wanted. They need to listen to us and what we want. So, with that said, the city is not in good standing with TxDOT. They're not in good standing with the county commissioners, the county judge. Guys, I'm asking you to make a difference. Don't kill small business in this town, or we're going to have a ghost town downtown. There's not going to be anybody left. They're all complaining about the code enforcement, changes in the rules. Don't keep changing the rules. Don't change the ordinances. Listen to the citizens of this city. The ice cream truck brings business in. Snow cone business brings business in. All you got to do is just drive down the road any day when they're open and see the citizens standing out there doing commerce. I'm just asking you again, think before you make any decisions and consider the small businesses and the citizens of this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill?
Good evening, Bill Clevenger, Montgomery, Texas. I'm going to wing it here a little bit. I had a prepared speech. Honestly, I'll share with you, it was kind of direct, forward, bold, and you know, a lot of people, I've grown a lot over the years, and people said, Bill, don't be so hard, don't be so bold, don't be so brash. So I am the owner, along with my wife, Paula, and my son, Jackson, who I can't wait to get back here soon, are the owners of the ice cream stand. We are totally blown away by the ice cream, the response that we receive. The Facebook likes climb every day. We have people, just yesterday, when I went to leave, there was a couple from Fort Worth. They drive down to Galveston every year. They said they never stop along the way as they go back. And so he put in a route, and he said on Google, Texas Twist and Shakes popped up, and it saw these reviews and pictures of this amazing ice cream that we have. They made their way here. 3 other couples, not together. One was from Spring, Tomball, and the Heights, because they saw the reviews that this ice cream and the service that these kids are giving. This young man approached me and said, he told me his dream, and you know, it's astounding. And then the school rolled out that wonderful article that was just embraced and shared all over social media about this young man's entrepreneurial dream to carry on his grandfather's legacy. Granted, the history of the ice cream stand and how we fought to get it open and how the community rallied around and continues to rally around that ice cream stand. I'm there, I do on Mondays. I can't find some kids to work on Mondays, so I go in, and trust me, it wasn't my dream to be blending a milkshake, right? But I'm there, and you look around on a Monday, and it's a ghost town. Miss Carol, you and I shared that, right? We turned right on 149 Liberty Street, and from the red light to Jim's on a Monday, it's crickets. And you know, yesterday was a Monday on a holiday, and I thought, we're not going to do that good. And by golly, I mean, people came in droves, and they came on droves on Sunday, and they keep, and you know, listen, It doesn't hurt the snow cone stand. I go by there because I live right around the corner from it, and they're lined up the thing, and I'm happy for them. I'm happy for every business and anybody who wants to strive. But folks, beyond this, in this day and age, where we always sit around and say, oh, this generation, and these kids, and oh my gracious, they're going to be the ones running our government, and we got this young man here wanting to do that. Don't kill his spirit. He could go out and sell at the Woodlands in Conroe, but he wants to do it in his hometown, Montgomery, and I'm there to support it. And I just ask for one quick thing. I know I'm over my limit, but I know you have a concern about the safety. Okay. Grant, the young man should have his permit. He brings his trailer in. We'll set it up. I think you made in a comment, Mayor, that when you attended the coffee trailer that was there, you had to get out of the way of a Suburban. So in that defense, and I think Dave, you can attest to this, his trailer was never put in the proper place because he was in fear that he wouldn't get his permit. The trailer was supposed to be sitting back in the corner in a diagonal pattern, just like his trailer, just like we drew out on the document that was presented with his permit at the time, which opens it up completely and adds more room. I've talked to the fellow business owner, Tom Cronin and Efren, and the fact that maybe we can adjust the parking lines a little bit and keep a flow of the traffic going around instead of where cars have to back up. But to go even further, this young man I know has a delivery coming this Friday. He wants to move his trailer in as soon as he can. He gets his trailer placed, I will make the investment, and I will go get some nice big concrete planters, and we'll get some safety chain, and we'll connect all those, and we'll block it off. And people can then either step over, and we'll eliminate the whole opportunity that a car can go in that area. And I hope that will then at least suffice your safety concern in that. But at the end of the day, I'm just here pleading for you, or to you, the fact spirit's hard to come by, and that's a bright spirit. Don't kill it.
I'd like to make, if I can, Jacob the last. So is there somebody else in front of you?
I'd like one more, please.
Okay, that's fine.
You want me to go in front of you and you go next?
I mean, say the best for last, Jacob.
Yes, I'm his mom, so I can
Okay,
say
well.
that he is the best. So, Michelle Irving, 11710 Grandview Drive, Montgomery, Texas. So we have lived here since Jacob was 9 months old, so we're going on 16 years. And I'm sure each of you saw the email that I sent to you earlier today, speaking out on behalf of not only my son, but also small business and industry in Montgomery. There's been a lot of really great points that have been made today. There's three things that I want to reinforce. One is that today, close of business, was the day his permit should have been granted. You guys cashed his fee, you've processed his payment, and you had until the end of day today. To call this meeting tonight and to try and push that forward seems to be out of legal bounds, and that's something that needs to be considered very seriously. Along with that point is the fact that he followed all of the rules that you set out in your ordinance. He followed it to the letter. Got all of his inspections, did everything he needed to do to submit that permit, did it within the timeline, very respectfully followed up, did everything he was supposed to do. And this meeting was called in this time to pull the rug out from under this young entrepreneur. That's shameful. The next point that I would like to make is that when we are looking at industry and business right now, in the downtown Montgomery area, in any area really in the city of Montgomery, brick and mortar real estate is expensive. Food trucks are on the rise. It is a trending business right now that brings in dollars everywhere. This young man wants to put his business in the heart of Montgomery, and you've all commented on the fact that nobody ever comes to these meetings. And look what this young man brought to the city council meeting. This is just a flavor of the support. Social media has been blowing up with support for this young man.
So think about the revenue that that brings into downtown Montgomery, which is where he wants to be. You're cutting your nose off to spite your face. With that being said, I respectfully ask that you reconsider what you're doing. There are other ways to do this. If you want to readdress the ordinance, take the right approach to doing that. Grant his permit, which he submitted in the right way. Grant that permit, and if over the next 6 months you guys can all agree on the ordinance, then make the changes then. And when people come up to reapply for their ordinance, make sure, or their permit, make sure that they're in the boundaries of the new ordinance. He's following the current ordinance. You are not. Thank you.
All right, Jacob.
Thank you. He's right, you know. Well, hello again. All know my name now. I'm a 16-year-old high school student, as well as the founder of Pop Pop Standy Dog. You may remember me from about a month ago when I came to speak on my intent to open my business in the city of Montgomery in order to drive revenue back to my hometown and into the city that I love. It is an understatement to say that I was shocked when I learned that there is a moratorium proposing to be passed, to be passed that will be placed on new permits, and that my own city would break down the spirit of a young entrepreneur, and that the city elected officials might appear to be anti-business and anti-youth. Instead of being out partying and making mischief, like many other teens I know of, I worked for over 2 years to build a business and run it in the town where my heart will always belong. I maintained my grades, staying in the top 5% of my class, while also juggling 2 jobs and extracurricular activities. It breaks my heart to read the emails that have been made public and learn that my intent to have a business within the city limits is the catalyst for passing this sudden moratorium. Mr. Mayor, when you called me this morning, one of the reasons you gave me as to why my permit wasn't given, even though the payment for my permit was processed on May 19th, 5 days before this moratorium was passed, was that it was a matter of public safety. As Mr. Bill mentioned before, that shouldn't be a concern anymore. You said that vehicles trying to park would be dangerous to those standing in line at the food trailers. Well, as shown in the emails exchanged between you and the former city administrator, both the city attorney's office and the police department agree that there is, quote, sufficient space in which to operate and don't see public safety as an issue. I plan to open this business and worked so hard to turn my dream into reality, and it deeply saddens me to see that the council might choose to take a stance just 2 weeks before I'm set to open that, in the words of Mr. Mike Bendixson, quote, reflects that a high school student has better long-range planning than does a city council. You also said that this ordinance is what the people of Montgomery elected you to take care of. And yet, here we have a building full of people who want my permit to just be passed and let it be fixed in that time limit. Given the current state of the national economy, it takes an overwhelming amount of bravery and courage to start a business.
Go ahead.
And after spending countless hours building up both of those qualities, it saddens me deeply, again, to know that my city might be actively working against me and my endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your support, Jacob. Yeah, we did have discussions, but I hope you understand my frustration. 99% of everything you say I agree with 100%, but I'm very frustrated as well, okay? So give me a chance to articulate. First of all, I want to say item number 1 is being bumped down to the executive session. And I want to clarify for you, there were 3 things that came up as a matter of urgency to take care of the executive session. So this was not the primary. This fell in among 3 things that I got from staff that says, hey, we need to take care of this, this, and this. So please understand me, this was not a concerted effort to go after anybody. Obviously, we have an issue that has a dual nature to it. So I'm going to go ahead and slide in officially to item number 2. Item number 2 is a resolution of the City of Montgomery, Texas, enacting a temporary moratorium on the acceptance, authorization, and approvals necessary for permits granted under Chapter 64 of the Montgomery Code of Ordinances, finding and determining that the meeting at which the resolution was passed was open to the public as required by law, and providing an effective date. I consulted legal counsel on whether we were legal about this. And Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, that was 5/19 that the application was submitted, is that correct?
That is the information we have.
That's the information you had, and there was 10 business days? And I was under the impression that 10 business days ends on Friday, not today.
We can have you do the math, but it should be Thursday.
And that's the information that I'm working off of, and that's okay, because I think there's a solution here. So the issue has been, we are operating under a 1996 ordinance. It's 26 years old, and as many of us know, food trucks were not even in the spectrum. It's embarrassing that we haven't dealt with it. And I've expressed that with management. So here's the issue for us. We have a dual thing going on where we had 3 businesses outside the historic district that had a food truck model. And we find ourselves not able to, would that be fair, Dave, to say not really able to deal with that right now because we're operating off of that?
Where food truck development regulations would add to the clarity of administering the existing ordinance.
Okay, so one of them canceled out and went to a more permanent restaurant. Another one's outside the historic district that has been brought to the council and is being worked on. Am I correct on that?
Which one is that?
Down Klepper. It was a marketplace / food truck.
In concert with the farmer's market.
Right. And so my point is, then we have a third business part, because I would start a business, but I wouldn't do brick and mortar. It's hard. So you're absolutely correct on that, right? So we've got 2 already looking at a food truck and needing guidance. So the question I have, and I've brought up to staff, is it seems that if we don't do something before the permit ends, because all we have is 6 months, it seems that we would be defaulting to 6 months, which would be fine for the inner city. I'm fine with that. But how do we deal with these 2 who are going to need an updated food ordinance truck, or do we want to let them slide into a 26-year-old? That's our problem. Hearing the sentiments, though, knowing there's this thing that we've tossed around called a special permit, we never got to that. So I've directed staff 2 weeks ago, start getting your stuff together. I took myself out of a meeting today because the people are telling me we've got to take care of traffic on Buffalo Springs. I agree. We have bigger fish to fry. I've already studied these things, but we have 2 new council members that need to be updated, ASAP. And so the staff worked diligently today when I stepped out, and I'm going on to other things, but we have at least 2, and really all 4, need to be updated on what are the solutions. And it would appear to me that there's 2 things going on. When you go into the historic district, there's a certain set of standards there. And I just can't see any way to, well, Dave, that was your language in the fall. How do I find language in the historic zone to permit something that's obviously designed to move? That was what we were trying to do in the fall. And so I made a motion, and Carol seconded it, that we go with the same thing that Montgomery, Texas uses, so people can come in and out and nothing changes. And it got shot down. We can't keep kicking the can down the road. I'm a man of compassion. I'm all for, especially Jacob. And it's good to hear Bill come with a possible solution. If we work together, there can be a solution to this. I don't want to do anything illegal. So I need my legal team to make decisions on this as we go through this process. So as far as I'm concerned, council, you don't have to act on this if you don't want to, and just let it die.
So you saying this special, this ordinance we have 64, 31, 33, it was in effect in 96, 1996?
Isn't that what we're working off of? We looked it up this morning, didn't we?
So it's still in effect?
Our first ratification was in 96, so that's when the
So nothing changed, so it's still good, it's still in effect, right? And the young man has met all the
Absolutely.
qualifications of it. So it's nothing,
We're in the discussion phase. I appreciate your exhibit. Let these work it out.
so if he met all the qualifications up until now, I don't see why we should deny.
Okay, so the denial. So here's my thing. We're not gonna make a motion. We let it die. We go back to the legal counsel and the staff, and let's find a way for the young man to hit the ground, because your model's actually different than Bill's, the way I understand it. You do plan to move. Is that correct? Because you have a grease trap thing, or, there's an extra issue for that. I'm all for this. But please understand my frustration is, we did not deal with business. And we can't, it's embarrassing to have a 1996 code that doesn't have any teeth to it when these other people are coming in outside and what are we going to tell them? We're not ready? And so that's council, what is your pleasure? Just let it die? There's no motion?
Before we go any farther, I want to speak, Mr. Mayor. The fact that this meeting was called and a moratorium on permits was basically the agenda, because I've talked to the staff, and none of this could have not waited, okay, until our normally scheduled meeting. So
That's not true. We have three things.
I have the floor, so please.
We have three
I have
things
the
at
floor,
the
so
bottom.
please.
It's not true.
So I'm a little disappointed, because a moratorium out of the blue, when this, like you said, this topic has been around for 8 months, 9 months, longer than that, kicked around. Yes, 2 of us were just voted on the council, and no, I didn't expect to take care of it on day one. We had our hands full, okay? That being said, we don't change the rules of the game when you're playing in the middle
I'm
of
all
the
over
game.
it, Jason.
If we want to change the rules down the road, then we do that. But we get public opinion, we do it the right way, and we take our time so everybody, me and Cheryl included, has an opportunity to weigh in and not be forced or try to be forced to do something that I'm not ready to do. Now,
Casey, you made the point.
I'm not done. I'm not done. Because here's my point. The fact that this moratorium and all this, it questions my integrity to the people that elected me to serve them. It puts in question every single other person on this council.
Don't let it die, vote no.
I disagree.
So
It
my
will be
thing
no.
is,
It will be no on it dies.
No, it won't.
the thing is, we are going to vote on it, and however it goes, it's going to go. You brought us in here for this. We're going to call it, and it's going to either go or it's going to end.
You have to make a motion.
All right? I have a very good feeling on how that motion is going to go.
Well, the motion, if it's
But
correct,
I want it
I'm wrong,
gone.
but if there's, I got you. If we don't make a motion, it dies on its own.
It can be brought back.
Yes. Next week it could be.
Council?
Kill it.
Kill it. End it.
It could be brought back. That is correct.
So tell us what to proceed with, because This is fine.
I make a motion to reject the resolution for the city of Montgomery.
We have a motion by TJ. I have a second.
I second.
Second by Casey. TJ made the motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. And the motion is rejected. And we move on. Now, okay, now let me address Casey's assertion. Once again, council, we had a flood of 3 back-to-back-to-back meetings in addition to this. So I reject the assertion that this was all about that. Now, enough about that. On to executive session. The City Council reserves the right to discuss any of the items listed specifically under this heading, or for any items listed above an executive closed session as permitted by law, including if they meet the qualifications of sections 551.071, consultation with attorney, 551.072, deliberation regarding real property, 551.073, deliberation regarding gifts, 551.074, personnel matters, 551.076, deliberation regarding security devices, and 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations of Chapter 551 of the Government Code of the State of Texas. We'll need MEDC people up first, and we are adjourned to that executive session at 6:41. Nick, you ready? Okay. It is 8:28, and we are returning from executive session. Item number 1 is discussion of real property. Do we have a recommendation?
I make a motion for our MEDC president to move forward with real property negotiations and to be able to sign the agreement.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Cheryl, second by Carol. This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires majority vote. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of permitting MEDC for the purchase of real estate, to enter into real estate agreement, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And the motion carries. Item number 4, is there a recommendation regarding city administrator interim?
I would like to appoint Dave McCorkadale as our interim city administrator.
Do I have a
Motion to
second?
appoint.
And second by TJ. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires a majority vote. Any other discussion? All in favor of appointing Dave McCorkle to the interim city administrator, say aye.
Aye.
And there are no opposed, and that motion carries. Congratulations, Dave. Council inquiry, Will Metcalf has asked, where's Chief? Did you get that letter too?
I do. I sent him a confirmation out.
Okay, there'll be a roundtable discussion that Chief and I will be joining regarding getting data together and best practices and whatnot. We couldn't find a finer example than Chief on protecting our schools. And so we'll be representing the city in that way. Any other council inquiries? All right, I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by
second.
Carol and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we are adjourned.